Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be going over both the early and main slate on DraftKings for Thursday, June 14th. We have a 4-game early slate today and a 4-game night slate. So a split slate, going to cover both. Going to talk about pitchers, give my 5 plays, talk about the bats I like as well. As you can see, I already got my 5 plays plugged in for the early slate. I'll talk about why I like these guys, and then we'll talk about the other pitchers and the other hitters. Then we'll move on to the main slate, the 4 games at night, and we'll do the same for that. But before we do get started, guys, make sure you drop a like on the video. I would really appreciate it. If you are new to the channel and you have not subscribed yet, be sure you do click that subscribe button down below, so that way you won't miss out on any of my new videos. But yeah, we'll start at pitcher. Look at the options here. We have kind of like 2 studs on this slate. You got Verlander and Clevinger. Verlander gets to face the Athletics, and Clevinger gets to face the White Sox. Just given that those are only our 2 really stud options, I'm going to have to go with Justin Verlander here versus the Athletics. I love this matchup. This is an Athletics team that does strike out a lot. Verlander's been so good this year. The guy's pitching deep into games. He's getting strikeouts. And this is a matchup where he can rack up some strikeouts versus the Athletics. You just look at that projected lineup. A lot of Ks in that projected lineup. Verlander should be able to get a little bit of run support. Montes is a pretty solid pitcher, but the Astros could definitely get a couple runs off of Montes and let Verlander pitch deep into the game, get a win. I could easily see him going 7-8 innings with 9-10 strikeouts and a win, 30-35 DK points. It's definitely possible for Verlander here. So he's my SP1. I like paying up for him on this slate. Clevinger also does get a really good matchup against the White Sox. And if you want to go down to him in tournaments to get off the Verlander ownership, imagine Verlander's going to be pretty chalky on this early slate just because of the few options we have. Verlander puts up a mediocre outing. You could definitely gain some good leverage on the field going with Clevinger. Who I do like here versus the White Sox. Good matchup there. But since we went with Verlander, we're obviously not going to be able to play Verlander and Clevinger. So the SP2 that I like is Vince Velasquez. I think this is a good matchup here for him against the Rockies at home. I was on Velasquez in his last start against the Brewers, pretty high on him that day, and just totally got rocked by the Brewers. Gave up 10 runs, put up negative 10 DraftKings points. We're definitely going to see Velasquez bounce back here. He's very good against righties. If we look at the projected lineup for the Rockies, they have 6 righties in their lineup and only 3 lefties. The 3 lefties in the projected lineup are Blackmon, Gonzalez, and Parra. Blackmon, obviously a really good hitter. Gonzalez and Parra haven't been that great this year. So I love Velasquez here. I think he's a great play on this slate. I think he has upside. And this is a Rockies team that does struggle outside of Coors Field. Much better at home than they are on the road. So I'm going with Velasquez and Verlander. I like Velasquez's price. He fits well with Verlander. That still leaves you decent salary for bats. So these are kind of the 2 pitchers I'm looking to build around. Really, the other pitchers on this slate I'm not even interested in. Like Montes, I'm not going with against Houston. I don't pick on Houston. Lance Lynn, I don't think is a very good pitcher. Carlos Rodon, a decent pitcher, but a guy I'm not really going to look to take against Cleveland. Michael Fulmer could be an option at 5,500 at home against the Twins, but that's a scary spot. And Herman Marquez is a pitcher that I don't think is very good either. So I'm kind of looking at Verlander and Velasquez today. Then for my 3 bats, I do really like the Phillies today versus Marquez. So Cesar Hernandez at 3,900 I think makes a lot of sense. As a cheap value play versus Marquez, should be leading off. Does have a lot of upside here. We know Cesar definitely has power. He has 7 home runs on the year. He's got speed as well. If he gets on base, he can steal bases and get you fantasy points that way. I just really like him here versus the righty. Cesar is much better against righties, much better from his left side when he bats from his left. So I think he's a great play, a cheap option at 3,900 with a lot of upside at second base. Then the next guy from the Phillies is Rhys Hoskins. I think Rhys Hoskins also a really good play here. He just seems too cheap at 4,100 for the talent level that this guy has. I know he's been much better against lefties this year, but I still like this matchup against Marquez. Really just like Hoskins because of the price tag at 4,100. Just too cheap of a price for a guy with the talent level of Rhys Hoskins, like I said. And another guy that does have some power and speed as well. If he gets on base, he is sort of a threat to steal bases. I believe he's got 3 or 4 stolen bases on the year, 7 home runs, so he's got that power. I just really like Hoskins and Hernandez today, and I think the Phillies could definitely be a sneaky stack that you do go to. But probably my favorite stack is the Indians. So I do like Melky Cabrera here versus Carlos Rodon. Melky Cabrera is in the projected lineup. He's projected bat 5th, for the Indians. Versus Rodon, who is a decent pitcher, but a guy I'm not afraid to pick on, especially with the Indians, with just how many talented hitters are in this lineup. especially guys like Edwin, Melky, Yan Gomes at 4.56. Some good value right there. We have seen in day games that sometimes Rajai Davis will lead off. If he does lead off today at 3,200, great value play versus Rodon. We're obviously going to have to wait and see what their lineup is, but on day games, they do sometimes lead off Rajai Davis, so you could consider him as a value play, especially depending on where he is in the order. Indians is definitely my favorite stack here, and I do like Melky. 3,500, batting from his right side, very good versus the lefties, very good from his right side. And I just think some good value here at 3,500 in the outfield. So these are 5 plays I like for the early slate. Verlander, Velasquez, Hernandez, Rhys Hoskins, and Melky Cabrera. Now we will quickly talk about the stacks and BVP plays that I like on the slate. Or we'll talk about stacks I like, and then we'll talk about BVP. So stacks for me, it's the Indians and Phillies are kind of the 2 teams I'm focused on here, especially the Indians. I really like them. If you can fit in the expensive plays, I think they're worth their prices, but the value, just like always, when you're trying to pay it for pitcher, you need value, a hitter. So the value with Melky, Yan Gomes, I think those are the guys I'm really focused on. And then the Phillies I do like here versus Marquez. Marquez is not a guy that I believe in. I think the Phillies, especially given their price tags, make a lot of sense as value plays today. But then moving on to BVP, looking at the BVP plays, we got about 3. Looks like we got 3 of them. Cargo's 6 for 12 with a home run versus Velasquez. Brian Dozier is 3 for 11 with the home run versus Michael Fulmer. And Jose Ramirez is 5 for 15 versus Carlos Rodon. And then PVB, got 2 PVB plays on the early slate. Michael Fulmer has done well in the matchup with the Twins in the past. The Twins are only hitting him for a 203 average, only 13 hits through 64 ABs. Then Carlos Rodon, he has done well against this Indians team in the past. The Indians are only hitting him for a 221 average through 122 at-bats. But I still do like the Indians today, even though Rodon's pitched well against them in the past. But yeah, that's it for BVP and PVB on the early slate. Now we'll go ahead and move on to the main slate. Look at the 4 games for tonight and talk about the plays I like here. So I've already got my 5 plays plugged in as well for this slate. Going really cheap at pitcher on this slate. I don't really like the expensive options. I think you can get some good value here with Domingo Germán and Anibal Sanchez. Right now, as I am recording this video, it looks like Brandon McCarthy is in the projected starters on DraftKings at least, but I don't think he's going to pitch today. It looks like it's going to be Anibal Sanchez pitching for the Braves, and then Domingo Germán is going to pitch for the Yankees. It looks like the Yankees have this Loíza guy, or DraftKings has this Loíza guy in the projected player pool as a starter, but he's not going to pitch. It's going to be Germán pitching against the Rays. And it looks like Fantasy Labs hasn't released a starter for the Rays yet, but I believe it is going to be Blake Snell. Blake Snell's in the projected player pool, or the projected starters list on RotoWire, so I believe Blake Snell's going to pitch for the Rays. Germán's going to pitch for the Yankees, and Anibal should be pitching for the Braves. That's just my projection as I'm recording this video at 8:40 on Wednesday night. But yeah, like I said at the beginning, going really cheap at pitcher today. I'm not really into Blake Snell here versus the Yankees, especially at 10,900. I think that's just a risky spot. Blake Snell's been great this year, but in Yankee Stadium at that price tag versus a Yankees team that has so much power, I think I'll shy away from Blake Snell today. And then David Price versus the Mariners. I think David Price could run into some trouble here. This is a Mariners team that's been hitting the ball really well lately. Mitch Haniger really starting to heat up. Nelson Cruz is starting to show some power versus lefties. I think it's just a scary spot for David Price. So I really like the value here with Domingo Germán and Sanchez. These guys are dirt cheap. Germán's only 6,700 and gets to face a Rays team that just doesn't have a good lineup. If you look at this projected lineup for the Rays, it's pretty gross, kind of from top to bottom. Decent hitters at the top with Bowers and Duffy. Not guys that are easy to strike out, but when you get to the bottom, there's just so many strikeouts and so many bad hitters in this projected lineup. I love Germán here. I love his price tag. I think he could easily return a ton of value on this price, and definitely one of my favorite pitchers on this night slate. And then Anibal Sanchez is another guy that I just think is a little bit too cheap here. He's only 5,500 pitching at home versus the Padres. This is a great matchup. We've been targeting the Padres all year with opposing pitchers. Anibal's not really a guy I believe in, not a guy that I think is a great pitcher, but he's shown signs that he can be good. He's been decent so far this year. Last 4 games, he got 26, 24, and 19 DraftKings points. Did have a really rough outing against the Mets, but 19, 24, and 26 last 4 games. This might be somewhat of a risky play because Anibal's just not really a high upside guy, not a guy that really can get a lot of strikeouts, but it is a great matchup for him. It's a bad team in the Padres, and Anibal is so cheap at 5,500. Even if he gets 10 to 15 DK points, that's still getting the job done when you're 5,500. So going with Herman and Sanchez, I think leaves you like nearly 5K remaining per player. You can pretty much play any batters you want if you go Herman and Sanchez. And those are two guys that do have potential to return a lot of value on their prices. So I like building around them at pitcher. I don't really love a lot of the other options on this slate. I think if you want to like go the safe route, then you could play Blake Snell, but I think this could be a rough outing for Blake Snell. Same with David Price. I think this could be a rough outing for David Price. I don't think I'm going to play Tyson Ross against the Braves. Steven Matz against the Diamondbacks won't be going there. Matt Cook, I don't think is a very good pitcher, even though the Mets have been atrocious lately. Matt Cook, not really a guy I'm going to roster. And then King Felix, no way I'm playing him against Boston. So that's kind of what led me to Herman and Sanchez, two really cheap options that I think can return a lot of value. But then looking at the hitters at first base, I love Paul Goldschmidt today versus a lefty. A pretty bad lefty in Steven Matz, a lefty that definitely gives up power to right-handed hitters. We starting to see Goldschmidt heat up lately. He's been hitting the ball really well. Obviously, he went to Coors Field and really caught fire there, getting 2 home runs, I believe, in 2 straight games at Coors. Goldschmidt looked pretty terrible to begin the year, but like I said, he's just starting to hit the ball well again. This is a good matchup versus a lefty that really struggles to righties, especially righties that have power. Steven Matz was also pretty bad at holding runners. You can definitely steal on Steven Matz. No Goldschmidt, I don't think he's stolen that many bases this year. If we look at the steals, only 2 stolen bases on the year, but still a guy that can run. Does have some decent speed. We obviously know the power is there with 12 home runs. Love Goldie at first base. I think Freddie Freeman, also a great play at 5,400. But I think I'm going to have to give the edge to Goldschmidt there. Then at second base, I love Ozzie Albies today versus Tyson Ross. Tyson Ross has been good this year, but I still don't mind taking some batters against him, especially batters that have speed like Albies. Tyson Ross, very bad at holding on runners, very bad at allowing steals, will allow a ton of stolen bases. Albies has legit speed. Looks like he's got 6 stolen bases on the year. We know he has the power, 16 home runs on the year, especially when he's batting from his left side, which he will be today versus Ross, versus the righty. Albies will be batting from his left, where he has a lot of power and a good hitter's park for lefties. Love Ozzie Albies today at second base. Definitely my favorite second baseman on this slate by far. And then my final play, we got a ton of salary to pay up, so might as well just jam in Mookie Betts. Even though he's 6K, when you go Herman and Sanchez, you can pretty much play whoever you want. So you might as well play the best hitter in the league, or at least one of the best hitters in the league, against a pitcher that definitely I don't really believe in Felix Hernandez. I know King Felix has shown some signs this year where he can be good, but this is still a Red Sox team that could definitely give him some trouble. It's a Red Sox team that doesn't strike out a lot, that has so much power. Since we went Herman and Sanchez, we can stack the Red Sox if we want to do that. And I think that's definitely an option. We can play Mookie, we can play Benintendi, we can play JD. And I think all 3 of them are worth their price tags today versus King Felix, especially Mookie, just such a good hitter. Guy that has so much upside. He's got speed, got power. Love him at 6K versus King Felix. But yeah, guys, these are my 5 plays for the main slate. Domingo Herman, Anibal Sanchez, Paul Goldschmidt, Ozzie Albies, and Mookie Betts. Now we will quickly go over stacks and BVP plays on this main slate before we do get out of here. So stacks, the stacks I love, definitely the Red Sox versus King Felix. Number 1 for me, especially with the cheap pitching options I went with. I can fit these guys in. I think the Braves could be sneaky here versus Tyson Ross. I think guys like Albies, Freddie Freeman, Markakis, these guys are definitely in play today for me versus Tyson Ross. And then if you do want to consider some of the righties from the Diamondbacks like Ahmed, Goldschmidt, John Ryan Murphy, I think those guys are definitely options as well. But yeah, now we'll move on to BVP plays. Talk about some of the BVP plays on this main slate before we do get out of here. So it looks like there are 4 BVP plays. Gary Sanchez is 4 for 10 with 3 home runs versus Blake Snell. Eric Hosmer, 15 for 43 with the home run versus Anibal Sanchez. Jackie Bradley is 3 for 10 with the home run versus King Felix, and Nelson Cruz, 9 for 28 with 2 home runs versus David Price. And then the PVB, the pitchers that have done well in their matchups. Looks like we've got 2 plays here. Blake Snell and David Price have both done well in their matchups. Blake Snell done well against the Yankees. Yankees have only hit him for a 219 average through 64 ABs. And then David Price has done well against the Mariners. Mariners have only hit him for a 220 average through 91 ABs. Those are the 2 PVB plays that we have on the main slate. But yeah, guys, I think that's it for PVB and BVP on the main slate. And I think that is it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully it helped you. If you did enjoy, just make sure you click that like button. And if you have not subscribed yet, make sure you do subscribe down below. And if you have any questions, like always, you can hit me up on Twitter at the DFS_GOAT, or feel free to leave a comment down below, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and good luck tonight on whichever slates you play, guys. Peace.